Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I have a conversation that I wanted to go ahead and get started surrounding the Wonder Woman game. Now, those of you who already know, all we have for the Wonder Woman game is just a reveal. So far so good. We know that she's not necessarily going to be in one video game as her main game, but it appears that she is going to be in the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game, which is being developed by Rocksteady. Nonetheless, we have to make sure that we create the distinction in this video, showcasing what developers, what teams are working on both games. The Wonder Woman game is actually being developed by Monolith Studios, and this is the studio that is actually known for the critically acclaimed titles Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and Middle-earth: Shadow of War. These titles have been some of their most landmark titles in the past few years, but nonetheless, it doesn't necessarily mean that all they've done are these two games. They actually are quite interesting as a studio, and as veterans have made a number of games in the past, and actually pretty good games. You can check out their library on their website. It will really inform you as to the quality of this development team. Now, the biggest and most interesting thing, in my opinion, is Middle-earth: Shadow of War as a video game and Shadow of Mordor is a game that was actually born from a process in terms of when they first pitched their idea. For many, we may or may not know, but it's been cited multiple times from people who were quite knowledgeable about the matter, that the first Middle-earth game was actually first pitched as a Batman game. And from there and then, it seemed like the developers did not necessarily get the green light to follow through with their original ambition, and somebody probably gave a mandate that possibly a game in that world will benefit them. So I think somewhere along the line, when Monolith was in a sense under Warner Brothers, they kind of had the ambition, or maybe they were under another publisher, I can't necessarily remember, they kind of had the ambition to make a superhero game. And if you look at the Middle-earth games, you will see that the character themselves is kind of, in a hero perspective, having extra abilities and so on and so forth. So Wonder Woman, in my opinion, is the perfect game for them to make. Number one, she's the superhero that hasn't necessarily had her own video game in the more recent time, and in the portrayals that we've seen her in the more recent gameplay lists that she's been in, it hasn't necessarily highlighted a lot of the core aspects of the character, which fans have always appreciated. So when you come to think of it, it's interesting to see how Wonder Woman is going to be appearing in not just one game, but two video games. In this video, nonetheless, we're going to explore that possibility that probably goes along the lines of, what if Wonder Woman is being set in the Arkham universe? Now, I have to acknowledge that this video was not necessarily originally my idea. One of my audience members placed a comment in my last video where I used Wonder Woman as an example for a character which its developers were trying to create an original story, and the possibility was, from what we've seen, it appears that Wonder Woman is going to be in its own independent universe. But they went ahead and highlighted and said, we haven't necessarily seen anything, so there is that possibility that this game will be set in the Arkham universe. Now, I think this is actually a huge possibility, but the timeline would actually have to matter. It would have to be in a time before Brainiac, which we see in the Justice League game is, or Kill the Justice League game, let me make sure I correct that, is now some kind of an antagonist, and now that Brainiac has already turned some of the Justice League members. So I think that the Wonder Woman game might have some expansion to be able to dive into. But if you think about this particular game, and if you think about the way it was introduced, it tells me that the developers are possibly going to go with an origin story and leave open the door for any universe that they want to maybe tap into, or if they want to go ahead and continue with their own universe, depending on the success of the particular title that's coming out very soon. And so the reason I actually say that this is more than likely going to pursue an origin story first is because the trailer in itself is her speaking with her mother, who's pretty much giving her the admonition, kind of a warrior's chant, in a sense, saying, go out there, kick butt, conquer, gather your allies, and be able to make sure that you're fighting for what it is that you truly believe in as a hero. as a princess that's representative of where she's from, where she wants to see justice and she wants to see truth be something that is actually at the forefront of all of what it is that she does. So her ethos is actually being established in that trailer. It's not necessarily just a simple reveal trailer. I thought this was one of the best trailers in terms of introducing a character that we have seen in a long time. It's very short, very straight to the point, and you already know that there's not just one character there. There are two characters and multiple elements. It's actually something interesting. So if we go back to it, we see that not only is Diana being given this admonition, they're showing a lot of like her war armor. You know, she has her little crown, her gauntlets are being shown, and then you see the lasso of truth as well. This tells us that this is a warrior that's already gone through a lot of all of those different things that she needed to go through. If you read the comics or if you follow the literature, you'll see that Wonder Woman is probably in that place where she's already grown up. Now, her own story that we get in this game might have us start from a place where she's still trying to go through some of her trials. She's still in Themyscira, depending on when it is they want to start this timeline. But eventually, she makes her way to Earth. Wonder Woman has a lot of impact with her appearance on Earth and the way that she builds and forms a lot of relationships. I think this is probably what the devs are probably going to do in terms of expanding her story, but there has to be that basis and there has to be that origin story formed from a really strong aspect. Now, in regarding saying putting her in the Arkham universe, it's already done in the Suicide Squad Justice League movie in a nice way where she has some kind of a relationship with both the Justice League, who most are now evil, and with the Suicide Squad. So I think this is probably where they can actually go ahead and juxtapose both sides of Wonder Woman's own experience by basically having her, you know, start out from the mascara, bringing her down to Earth, and then eventually having that relationship with the Suicide Squad go weird somewhere. Now, the interesting thing nonetheless is I think that this approach is more than likely going to limit the character if they actually insert her into the Arkhamverse. I think if they had her in a different universe, it would give a lot of freedom creatively in terms of that. And also, Monolith as a studio, I doubt would probably want to be doing a video game of this magnitude in the shadow of Rocksteady. Guys, remember the last time a studio did a video game in the shadow of Rocksteady, or one that was in Rocksteady's timeline, which is Batman Arkham Origins, they had a hard time releasing their own independent video game. A lot of people gave them a lot of difficulty in terms of saying, why is your game not like Arkham, and so on and so forth. So I personally think that Monolith might go ahead and dodge that bullet and go with their own particular Wonder Woman story. Now, keep in mind that they already have a lot of systems and mechanics to be able to do a very strong hero that actually can fight with the sword. I mean, if you think about their Middle-earth games, your protagonist is a swordsman. And in the case of Wonder Woman herself, Princess Diana, you'll know that she's also a very skilled sword fighter. Yes, she does brawl using her hands as well, but with her sword and her shield, man, there is some interesting combat mechanics that can actually be seen if you've been able to watch the character from, saying, some of the animated movies and even some of the comics. She is a very interesting fighter, so she really does make for a warrior character, and I think it will be in a better light to see her take on some of the challenges that are unique to her. Those challenges like monsters, baddies, enemies that threaten her homeland or even threaten her friends and some of her people that she's actually developed relationships with on Earth, and her dealing with all of that because as a character herself, she's actually pretty strong. So if she was in the Arkhamverse, there are pros to it. It will make things interesting. It will provide a lot of context and a free flow with the Suicide Squad game and so on and so forth in whatever direction they want to go. But at the end of the day, I believe that it's a more healthy way for them to actually just go ahead and establish her own universe and keep her out of intermingling with other studios' work, because other studios could at some point decide that they no longer want to follow a specific path, and then they're left with a bundle of material that they probably don't want to do anything with. So creating their own paradigm, establishing their own foundations, I think is the best way to go. Thank you very much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys engaging the conversation. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Would you like for Wonder Woman to be in the Arkhamverse or not? My position is clear. I would like for her to be in her own independent universe. Thanks for watching once again. Peace out.